Welcome back. You're still tuned into Halftime Report on CNBC-TV18. Well, for the markets, it's holding up quite well. So let's talk about a couple of topics which have been making news since yesterday. The US House has passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which is basically moving the Biosecure Act, which somewhat restricts biotech contracts to countries like China from the US. And that is moved closer to becoming a law in the US. Now, these local contract drug makers see it as a positive step that can drive a shift to India, which would basically be a China plus one opportunity for a lot of these CDMO manufacturers such as Piramal Pharma. To discuss more on this, we in fact do have Nandini Piramal, who is the chairperson of Piramal Pharma, joining in. Nandini, hi, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for taking the time out. Well, first, just wanted to understand what is the opportunity that you see if in case the US Biosecure Act does become law. What is the opportunity a company such as Piramal Pharma sees from that?
Hi, Ekta. It's a pleasure to be here. I do want to emphasize that this is only one step in a pretty long process of the US Biosecure Act actually becoming law, because it has to be passed in the Senate. It has to be signed by the president. And, the Defense Department has to actually create a list of companies. And there's also a multi-year kind of grandfathering clause. So it's going to take some time, but I do think that there will be reshoring happening to the US. And I think that's one of the things that we are seeing is that, along with the kind of pressure on pharmaceuticals overall to reshore, I think this will be another contributor to it. And that's why that's something that gives us opportunities, because we have 5 sites in North America, which are both API sites as well as formulation and injectable sites. And I think we have the capacity and the capabilities needed, if people do want to reshore.
Okay. I just had one follow-up. This grandfathering clause, Nandini, is for around 5 years. So that means that companies can continue working with the current contracts that they have, and then they can contemplate moving after 5 years. That's how we should read it.
I think at the end of 5 years, then they'll have to move. So people will have to make the steps to move before 5 years. Because
all right.
It does take time to move products and drug substance. So it will take time. Okay. You can't move pharmaceutical products in 1 day or 2 months. It takes a few years.
That's right. Even the conversion would take some time, right? For the Indian contract manufacturers to take these contracts on board and actually start execution. Nandini, you did indicate that you do have the capacity, you do have facilities in North America and other places. Have you already started seeing requests for proposals coming in from some of these US companies?
I will say that, there has been an uptick in RFPs. However, it's obviously too soon for decisions.
Okay, so too soon for decisions. There is an increase in terms of RFPs that you're seeing. From here on, if this act actually goes through, that approval comes in, then do we expect the conversion to be at a faster pace and acceleration in terms of growth there? Also, China plus one, right? The CDMO side, when you look at Chinese companies which have CDMO players, they have very large capacities. Will this help us in any way maybe to be competitive in terms of cost as well versus China?
I think overall, I'd say the China industry is very large. So even if some percentage moves to either the US or India, I think it will benefit us and will benefit the Indian CDMO industry. Okay. Because we are much, much smaller than all of the Chinese.
Exactly.
But as of right now, I will say that we're not as, the Chinese are cheaper.
Okay. So is it fair to assume that, Nandini, we'll probably see the opportunity probably come through in terms of the P&L of CDMO manufacturers in India maybe 3 to 5 years from now?
I think that's ideal. It'll take time. In the P&L, I imagine 3 to 5 years.
Okay. For you in particular, you've come out of a tough quarter. Your CDMO business has declined. You have indicated that the US biotech funding is seeing some amount of improvement, but there is possibly some way to go. What is the CDMO business looking like for the second half?
I think we've seen, again, some funding uptick over the last 3 months, probably since August, September, and October. And so right now, I would still say it's a muted optimism because, 3 months does not a trend make. So I'd like to see where we are at the end of the year. So I think overall, I'd say, yes, there has been an uptick. Yes, there are decisions being made, but I think it's too soon to, commit to definitively.
Okay. Nandini, is there any clarity on whether US agencies will evaluate supply chain security? Is the industry prepared for that? Because there's been so much conversation around this act already. Is the industry making preparations already around some of these issues?
I'd say everyone, at least the Indian industry, is aware, but I don't think I have a position on how the US agencies will act.
Okay. Well, Nandini, just reverting back to, your performance, you did scale down your guidance last quarter. You've made it, a flat revenue growth as well as maybe margins to be in moderate to low teens for the year. Based on what you're seeing, are you able to stick to this guidance?
I think right now we can stick to the guidance. As I would say is some of these decisions will take time to show up in the P&L. And I mean, as I said, frankly, it's too early for a decision, right? You'll have seen an uptick in RFPs, but, the RFPs do take time to decide.
Okay. All right, Nandini, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and taking the time out and speaking with CNBC TV18. So yes, while the US Biosecure Act has seen some amount of progress, there are going to be steps for it to finally convert into law in the US. And the RFPs, or requests for proposals for Indian CDMO companies, is still going to take some time to convert finally into business. That's the word coming in from Piramal Pharma. We'll take a short break, but up next, we'll get talking on the technicals. Mehul Kothari of Anand Rathi will join us. Stay tuned.
"26 years of CNBC TV18.